The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone in Australia, and good evening to our Northern Hemisphere cousins. It is an absolutely perfect day here today in Sydney, and I am enjoying my beautiful garden. And when I finish this webinar, I am off to Taronga Park Zoo to meet my beautiful grandchildren, Harvey and Frankie. And for those who don't know, Taronga Park Zoo is down by the harbour at Bradley's Head. It is a glorious lookout over our superb harbour. So today we thought that we would keep you in touch with what we're doing and what we've got coming up and what we have, and to guide you through some of the easiest steps when it comes to machine embroidery, applique and quilting in the hoop. Our goal has always been to make everything we do accessible to anyone, no matter whether you've just joined machine embroidery and quilting or you are a professional. For those who don't know, the background quilt here is Jenny's heritage. Back in the 90s, I think I was the first one to do a machine embroidered quilt. It was all manually guided, applique twin needle work, freehand work, stitch building. It was a wonderful challenge, and that was called the Heritage Quilt, and it was all tonal. And so the one you can see behind you is my machine in the version, machine embroidered version, and many people have made this. I have tried to incorporate as many of my techniques as I can in this quilt, so that each block introduces a new and different technique. I have to tell you, it was the most enjoyable quilt I have ever made. And if you're looking at all the glorious embroidery in there, none of it is done directly onto the quilt. It's all done with embroidered decoupage. Now, I know the book has been reprinted, and we have sold in excess of 11 or 12,000 of these books. It is now out of print, but due to demand, we are now releasing this as a special edition. It's not up on the website yet, but it will be available next week, and we will be sending out a mass email letting you know that it's available. It includes all the directions on the book or an e-book, plus all the embroidery designs that you will need. It also has a great resource section in it, and to go along with it, I would recommend that you purchase Get Creative with Jenny Haskins, which is under our embroidery products on the website. This is a video I did to go through all my embroidery techniques. One of my friends, Jill Wilcox from Western Australia, who's a fabulous teacher, she insists that all her students purchase this, as it is a great resource for them to have when they're going through their classes. Don't you dare for one more second surround yourself with people who are not aware of the greatness that you are. Remember that. You are unique, you are special, you are amazing. You must hold these thoughts. You know, we are who we think we are. I also want to say that for this webinar special, if you spend $150 or more at jennyhaskins.com, you will receive a copy of the book When Dreams Flower free. You don't have to enter any codes, just order after the webinar and you will get the When Dreams Flower book, which includes all the directions to make the beautiful When Dreams Flower quilt. On the front cover, the techniques and that are fabulous. One of the Jenny Haskins educators in America made this as a foot warmer. You do not have to make the whole quilt. It also includes a DVD with the embroidery designs to complete one of the gorgeous faux knitting jackets. And if you're wondering what faux knitting is, it's fake knitting, and it is done on the machine. So something that may take you a week to knit or more, if you sat down and did it 24/7, you can get done in half a day. There is the patterns for 2 designer jackets. One is made from faux knitting and an op-shop purchased sweater that has been cut and repieced as patchwork. It's gorgeous. It's blue. It's one for Robbie. And the other jacket is a one pattern fits all, and the lovely top coat, which is in cream. You can shorten the top coat should you choose to make also a lovely jacket. So this is a great book to have because of the techniques, and also there's a video that guides you step by step through the directions for all the techniques. Again, it's a great resource book. A Place in the Sun, I believe, is the first quilt to be totally done in the hoop, including the blocks, the block extensions, the sashing, the cornerstones, the center medallion, and the border. It is a double-sided quilt, and it's totally done in the hoop. It is all based on a 7.5-inch hoop. Now, for those who have smaller hoops, I've had emails from girls who have Benina, older Benina machines, and they have reduced everything by 6%. If you're going to reduce the size of the designs, make sure you reduce the size of everything. This is the front of the quilt, and you can see our beautiful scalloped border. Should you choose to put a plain straight border on it, you can just cut off the scallops, but we believe the scallop border finishes it off. It is also a double-sided quilt, and you could choose to use different colors on the back side of your quilt. It is entirely up to you. Your possibilities are endless. You could just make the center medallion if you wished. Again, you could make a foot warmer. You could make pillow slip shams, placemats. You could use the blocks and make them into a jacket. There are so many options. You could make it into a wall hanging. You can extend your block rows and make it into a larger quilt. The options are huge. And again, here you can see all the wonderful Jenny Haskins products, and these are all available through your local dealer. In Australia, we sell these products, and if you do not know who your local dealer is, go to the R&K website and they will tell you who your local dealer is. There's not one in your area. There are great online stores like So Creative Cottage and Erica's in South Bend. So both these online stores will ship. Now what we are doing is we are hooping the back fabric for our quilt, our batting and our top fabric, and then the first thing we're doing is our beautiful McTavishing quilting. Now I want to run through embroidered applique because this is our next feature. Embroidered applique is applying fabric into an embroidery design, cutting around the edges, sealing the edges of the applique fabric with decorative stitches. So you can see here that we have placed a square of fabric that is going to cater for our frame around our chosen design. Use small sharp scissors, and by the way, you take the hoop out of the machine, not the fabric, out of the hoop, and use small sharp scissors to carefully cut around the edge of the fabric in the stitched area. So you can see here, we are creating a frame. This frame, when cut out, has a little E-stitch stitched around it that seals the edge of the fabric. It holds it down flat for applique. And then we have the next outline, which are our leaves for our next applique insert. Using applique as an insert in an embroidery design cuts down the time to take to get a gorgeous design, and it's always perfect. Again, we see the leaves here that have been cut out, the same as the frame. So we move through all the elements of our design. Our next element are flowers, and we chose to do 2 in blue check and 2 in yellow. And you can see the outlines have been stitched over our fabric, and then they are very carefully cut out using the lovely little squeezy titanium scissors. Our next set of flowers are yellow, and so again we repeat the process for the opposite 2 flowers. And then you have your flowers totally cut out and beautiful, and the next thing you have to do is the centers of your flowers, which we chose to do yellow on our blue flowers, and of course we would do blue on our yellow flowers. So we had a different color in the center of each of our flowers. Now the next exciting part is using decorative stitches for applique, and in this case we decided on a little satin stitch ball. Many years ago when I did color purple, I think the quilt that was the first quilt that launched me into quilting. Besides the heritage one, it had machine embroidery in it, but we didn't have large hoops then, and so I did applique and provided the patterns. And that was when I started investigating doing applique with decorative stitches rather than a boring satin stitch. I'm sure you will agree it looks so much nicer. And of course, when we were doing manual decorative stitches, we actually extended the designs with all sorts of fun things. So if you're interested in something like that, we actually had that digitized, and it's called Color Purple The Next Generation. And that is a digitized version and a larger version of my original Color Purple. And it also includes the ebook for the original Color Purple if you don't do machine embroidery. You then take your hoop out of the machine and place a piece of backing fabric, which you can have batting on the back of, and this is going to cover up the embroidery that you will see on the back of your quilt and make your quilt double-sided. It does an outline on the front of your quilt around the edge of the frame, and this attaches your fabric, and then you carefully cut around the edges. It is naive applique. It is not sealed. It's a tiny triple stitch, so you will have no trouble with the stitching coming undone. Now you can see another one of our beautiful applique designs, and again you can see not only have we done our quilting in the hoop, our applique in the hoop, we have a built-in stitch cutting line which we have outlined in blue so you can see it. Use your quilting ruler, rotary cutter, and self-healing cutting mat to cut on the cutting lines. I suggest you place your ruler directly over the stitch cutting line, so the edge of the ruler is sitting over the cutting line, and in doing this you will cut accurately without cutting the stitch cutting lines. I then suggest for the block extensions, which are also quilted, that you combine as many as you can in one hooping, and then remove the fabric from the hoop and cut out each section as I directed in the blocks. So all your block extensions, your sashing, every piece of the quilt is cut in exactly the same fashion. So we have a block extension on each side of the center block. These are our block extensions. These are our cornerstones. So we need to have 2 block extensions without cornerstones and 2 block extensions with cornerstones. Now the way we are going to piece our block extensions with the cornerstones are with the Jenny join. The Jenny join is shown in detail in the book, but also I forgot to mention that there are 3 free DVDs to go with the A Place and Sun quilt that in which I guide you step by step through each process. So not only do you get all the designs for A Place in the Sun, step-by-step directions in the book, you also get 3 free videos to download as I guide you through each step of the quilt. It's like having me as your personal coach in your studio. I also want to mention that we have Fiesta, Perfect Bliss, I Need a Little Christmas, I Feel Pretty, and French Chic, as well as Quilt-A-Matic videos on our website. Go to the downloads, go to the videos. All of them are large files. It may take a little while. They're wonderful resources. I go through all my techniques, guide you in making these quilts, as well as you learn so many techniques. The built-in cutting lines on all our quilts are to finished size as opposed to piecing size. So you butt your cut edges together, place your pins vertical to the horizontal edges, and then you do a zigzag stitch using the same colored thread in your needle and bobbin on the seam. You can see here that we have our side block extensions pinned horizontally, and then we do our zigzag stitch on our block extensions on the side to piece them. Of course, our next step is to put our top and bottom block extensions on, which are pieced in exactly the same fashion. Pin and then stitch with a zigzag stitch until we have all our block extensions on our blocks. To cover our block extension seams, we use a 1/4 inch fusible bias clover tape, placing it both on the top and bottom of the seams, fusing it with an iron, and then we used a tiny little zigzag stitch to hold these in place. Clover are no longer making, for whatever reason, the cream tape, so I suggest you can easily glue a ribbon onto to cover the seams. You can do a beautiful decorative stitch, which we have done in the center medallion to cover the seams. There are lots of things. You can use braids, you can use tapes. It depends how decorative you want your work to be. And here we see the broken zigzag stitch that we used to cover the seams. Now in our sashing strips, we had to piece our sashing strips, and you can see here the beautiful decorative satin ball stitch that we used in our applique, and we used this to piece our sashing strips as well as our cornerstones. So what we need to do then is we put our pieced sashing strips on the sides of our blocks, or top and bottom of our blocks, and then do our pieced sashing strips with our cornerstones on our other side. You can see here It is all done with the Jenny join, flat, beautiful, non-bulky seams. Now, for those of you who can remember our center medallion, here it is. It is a square on point. Here is our square, which is made up of 4 blocks. And if I hadn't told you, you would have thought it was one large square. And then we have used the Jenny join, and this time we did our little satin stitch ball in white thread so you would not see it, and that our center would appear as one large block. Then we're going to join on our triangles and our embroidered corners of our square medallion. And here you can see us putting the corners on our center medallion in the same way. And yes, we use the satin stitch ball to join our corner blocks on the center medallion. Our borders are done in the same way with the Jenny join, zigzag, and then we covered our seam with a little satin stitch ball. Can you see here that we left a good 1/4 inch gap at the top? That is not seamed at all in all our dips and our scallops. You can see it here. For ease, we actually glued our binding on around the edge first, made it easier to stitch. We also put pins in it, and you can see the fold here in our scallop border. But this is to open the split that we left so that we are just sewing a straight seam. Naturally, we would have to sew below the cut dip, which is at 1/4 inch. This is a great way to do a scalloped border and bind it. In our next slide, you will see that we have stitched our binding on. We've clipped into the curve, and then we have clipped into the large scallop. And then all you have to do is iron your binding to the back of your quilt, and in doing so, ironing your binding flat, you do a lovely little pleat here that gives you a perfect scalloped border. We actually did our border as one piece, or several pieces, but we bound it first as it was easier for us to apply it to the quilt after it was bound, and then joined the binding up on the last side. So that was the way we found it was the easiest to do the border. Of course, then you cover all your seams with either a decorative stitch or braid. And when you've finished, you don't have to think, now I have to get the quilt quilted. It is completed. You would be amazed how quickly you can make this quilt. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. We're all about creativity and believing in yourself. Don't forget our webinar special. So now I want to move on to Simon's fabulous Quilt-A-Matic. It is a kaleidoscope of glorious silk colors. It is quick, it is easy, and it is stunning. And again, it's all quilting in the hoop. This is like a color wheel to me, as one color bleeds into another color, bleeds into another color. It is absolutely stunning. We iron Sheer Magic or Sheer Magic Plus to the back of all fabrics we use. It adds a thread count to the fabric. It adds stability to the fabric. It prevents the fabric from fraying without altering the feel or drape of the fabric. Of course, we iron Sheer Magic to the back of all our fabric applique inserts in designs. You can see here once again we hoop our backing fabric, our quilt batting and our top fabric, and we stitch out our beautiful quilting design. Again, we have our built-in cutting line which makes everything perfect. You don't have to worry about measuring or that you're going to be inaccurate in cutting or keeping your embroidery centered in a design. All this has been done for you. You then simply line up your beautiful blocks in the sequence you want to sew them, and for the benefit of this, you can see the Jenny join done in black thread. So you can see it, but remember we also use the black fusible clover bias tape to cover the seams. The black fusible bias tape, incidentally, is still available. And then we use black thread in the needle and bobbin to do an open zigzag to cover all the seams. It is that easy. We actually made a beautiful quilt market bag in our Ministry of Sewing. For those of you who are not familiar with our Ministry of Sewing, it was a year's subscription, and every 3 months, 2 months, we actually did a webinar, had the projects uploaded to the website so you could print off the directions as well as a video. We plan to market this in a different way for those who hadn't subscribed to our Ministry of Sewing, so stay tuned for that. And we are also looking to do our Ministry of Sewing again this year. It's a great learning experience. You get personal help from me in the form of a webinar, and we are looking at this exciting adventure which we plan to send you an email blast out about very soon. Obstacles are put in our way just to see if what we want is worth fighting for. And if we want something badly enough, we have to know what we have to give up to get it, because we can get anything in our lives if we know what we have to give up to get it. Just another reminder of our webinar special, and we are moving along to Alphabet for Lennox. Lenny is like Simon's nephew. He is a gorgeous, gorgeous little boy, and Simon made this alphabet quilt for Lennox. He actually took this quilt along to his preschool and showed it off. The kids were so impressed that one of the teachers decided to teach a quilt class, and we are talking about children 4 and under. And it was great. They actually had fabric. They chose their fabric pieces, which were all different sorts. So they learnt to feel texture, different textures. They glued it onto a fabric base, and then they were each allowed to sit at the machine and stitch out the design, stitch the fabrics in place. And then they all had their quilts to take home with them. I thought that was just such a fabulous idea. It's never too early to introduce children to the wonderful art of quilting. Now, you can see here that these are the letters of the alphabet. It also, at the background, it is quilted, the name of the animal. It is gorgeous. It's bright colors. And in these directions and pictures, you will see here that Robbie and I actually made a cube for Lenny to sit on out of the blocks. And we did this in our Ministry of Sewing. It is such a fun thing to do. And we chose to do a quilted background rather than the name of the animal. And we chose the letters for Lennox. We were lucky that he had the 6 letters in his name for the sides of the cube. And we took one of the quilting blocks from A Place in the Sun. So if you're looking for the quilting design on the actual CD, it is not. It is something different, but this is what we chose. And once again, You get to just place your square of fabric for applique. It is stitched down so it's not going to move. We actually put batting on the back of our fabric when we made the cube, and we all know how machine embroidered applique goes now. In putting the batting, and the Quilt-A-Matic and Quilt-A-Matic Light are the best battings on the market. They never flatten, they never pill, they iron and wash superbly. I cannot speak highly enough of these products. Again, we have our built-in cutting lines. And for those who are not familiar, I forget to say that when I refer to these products, they're all Jenny Haskins Magic products and are available from any of the dealers that carry my products. And I mentioned the online stores. For those of you who didn't write it down quickly enough, you can go to ericas.com or creativecottage.com. Both of these are fabulous online stores, and they ship very quickly. You then do your sashing or block sashing, as we have done here, and we chose to use our For Lennox all the way through. The cornerstones, again, combine as many cornerstones as you can in one hooping and cut them all out and piece them as we would for a normal quilt, and the same as a place in the sun. Decide that you want it more than you are afraid of it. I always find these sayings make me think. That is such a good quote. So don't forget our webinar special, and then we're moving on to piece de resistance, which is another quilt in the hoop, but this time it is piecing and quilting in the hoop. The blocks are stunning that Simon has chosen. The colors are vibrant, and in our Ministry of Sewing, we did a fabulous table runner using some of these piecing and quilting in the hoop blocks, and we did a totally different technique when putting the fabrics and that down and piecing it. It was a great project and it looked fantastic. What you do is you hoop your batting, your beautiful Quilt-A-Matic, and the first color is the layout of your patchwork piecing. And this is like a foundation piecing. Notice this is our first square here. It's had pink thread stitched over it. And if you are working with a design that is all triangles, as this one is, we always recommend that you roughly cut out your triangular fabric shapes. It's easier for you to work with. Now, foundation piecing is like strip piecing. Your first piece of fabric is right side up to wrong side to your foundation piecing. And then this piece is stitched down, and the last row of stitching shows us where our next piece is going to go. From here on in, it is right side of fabrics together. You will notice we have used silk here in this demonstration, and of course we have ironed Sheer Magic Plus to the back of it. From here it is 1, 2, 3. So we place our fabric, we stitch our fabric and clip the seam line. We then flip our fabric, and we use the little iron attachment that comes with our Magic Rhinestone Setter to iron the seam flat. Our next stitch line is already stitched for us, and we're going to place our next triangle there, right sides together, stitch, clip, flip. I'm ahead of you, I know. Stitch, flip, iron. And you have your next piece of fabric in place. Our next fabric triangle is done in exactly the same way. Right side fabric together, stitch, clip, flip, and press. And so you go through for each of the triangles. It is that easy, and it doesn't matter what your shapes that you're doing in the foundation piecing. The last row of stitching is where your next piece of fabric is to be applied. So everything is done for you. This is such a no-brainer, but you get this beautiful, perfect patchwork. When you have finished all your patchwork piecing, you take your hoop out of the machine, and then you place your quilt backing fabric on the back of the batting, and we have held it in place with Dissolve Magic Sticky. Now, if you're actually sitting and watching your everything stitch out, which you will be doing, we find it better if you place some heat away, Jenny's Magic Heat Away, over the top of your finished foundation piecing. This eliminates the fact that you may catch one of the loose fabric pieces under the foot of your machine. In doing this, you stitch your stitch cutting line with ease, and then you simply remove the heat away. This is a fabulous product for pile. And for those of you who maybe don't know, I write a regular column for Creative Machine Embroidery, which is a US-based magazine. I suggest you go to their website and you can get the online version of Creative Machine Embroidery. I have to date, I think, written 11 columns. They're great resources. I deal with placement, I deal with stabilizers, threads, etc., etc., and it gives you great ideas. So go to the Creative Machine Embroidery website and get the online digital version of Creative Machine Embroidery. And then you'll be able to see all my columns as well as the wonderful projects they have bi-monthly. Now that we have our built-in cutting line on the front and back, we are going to quilt the block. We are going to quilt the block. Isn't it stunning? And you can see here that we have chosen to use one of our beautiful red rayon threads. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have a beautiful ray, which I showed in our products, of glorious threads. Nothing stitches quilts, embroiders like rayon thread. These are beautiful Japanese rayon threads, and I always think that these quilt blocks would have looked gorgeous done in a metallic thread. Now, I can hear some of you shudder. Please do not shudder. The Jenny Haskins metallic threads have a mylar core. They are wrapped in metallic fiber. They have a polyester core. They are wrapped in a metallic fiber, and then they are coated with mylar. Now, mylar is a self-lubricating agent. It is absolutely wonderful. You do not have to change your needle. I work with a Microtex 80 needle for all my embroidery, quilting, sewing, because it actually prevents the thread from shredding. We all know that metallic fibers expand with heat due to friction, but this doesn't happen with our fabulous metallic threads. I have emails from people saying you use metallic threads all the time. What is your secret? Well, there's no secret. Just get the right product, and you will be so happy with the results. And yes, it goes in long arm quilting machines as well. Here we've taken everything out of the hoop. We have our built-in cutting line, our perfect square block, and then we just bound it. You can use it as a trivet. You can join these together. I would love to see these joined together and made into a jacket. That's on my agenda somewhere down the line. but I think my time is running out to my agenda. I actually, by the way, saw a saying the other day that said, when I arrive at the pearly gates, I hope that I can say to Gabriel and my maker, here I am, I'm totally empty. I used every bit of skills and creativity you gave me. And that is my goal, let me tell you. Whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think on these things. You know, we are what we dwell on. We are what we say we are. So if we think on good things, then we are good people. If we say we can do something, we can. And surround yourself with wonderful, positive people, not people that are negative and try to bring you down. You know, a successful person surrounds themselves with positive people who are better at things than they are, and so everybody is successful. Now we're coming on to Simon's Applique-A-Matic, which is brand new collection, which was just released at the Puyallup Sewing Expo in Washington State. And in the US and Canada, this is an exclusive collection for the Jenny Haskins brand products and the Floriani brand in the US. So you can purchase this collection from any of the Floriani or Jenny Haskins dealers. If you don't know where your closest one is, go to the R&K website. Also remember, I mentioned 2 online stores that carry these products if you don't have a dealer in your area. This collection contains 40 unique blocks in 3 sizes. Now, I'm not talking about designs. I am talking about blocks, so that you can do one 12-inch block if you have a Viking or FAT machine. You can do a 10-inch block that is made up of 4 5-inch blocks. Depending on the size of your hoop, we have tried to cater for the smallest and largest hoops. You can do a 7.5-inch block on its own and make a quilt out of the 7.5-inch block, or you can do 4 6-inch blocks. This is a very exciting technique, and you will love it, as it is a completely double-sided, stunning quilt. Just looking at the blocks is so exciting, and you can see how stunning they look here on our cover for the design CD. Now, do you know what else it includes in the design CD? A gorgeous pair of Jenny Haskins branded titanium scissors, which are perfect. We cannot do without these scissors. They're sharp, they're long-lasting, and they're easy to use. So I'm just skipping through here some of the fabulous blocks in this quilt. I have a lot of trouble finding my favorite. By the way, all of these blocks were previewed on Facebook, Jenny Haskins Designs 1. If you want to keep up with what we're doing in our studio, then go to Jenny Haskins Designs 1 and like our Facebook page. We love your feedback. We love to hear what you're saying. We actually just previewed recently, while Simon was away, Robbie and I created our coffee and cream collection, and we were so excited to get, I think, about over 2,300 views of this, and the response was fantastic. We're hoping to have this design CD available before the end of the month, so stay tuned to email blasts, as well as on this design CD, you will get an ebook on how to make our gorgeous coffee and cream smaller quilt. So I'm just skipping through the beautiful designs that are in this quilt using Cape Facet's beautiful fabrics, and Simon decided to piece the quilt with rickrack braid. I think it goes with the fabrics and the look that he wanted to get with the quilt. And this is the front of the quilt. And you know, you can make this quilt seasonal. And you know, sometimes we get sick of something, and would you believe this is the back of the quilt. Now that is the 12-inch block done as one block. And our next slide is the 7.5-inch block. That is done as one block, and see the lovely sashing. It always reminds me of ribbons threaded through beading. And this design will be up on our website before the end of the month as a free download, plus the directions to make this quilt. And you can see that Simon did a great piano keyboard border. And you know what he did these strips from? These were all done from the offcuts from hooping these blocks, so you don't waste anything. And that's the front of the quilt, which I particularly love. But then, hey presto, if by magic we turn it to the other side, and we get a very country look to our quilt. It's just a matter of your taste. Now, as with all our quilting in the hoop, we use our fabulous Quilt-A-Matic. This time we have used Quilt-A-Matic Plus, which is a double-sided fusible batting, and it is very light in weight. The reason for this is that we have 5 layers to hoop. We have the bottom of our quilt layers of fabric, white, and our fabric, our batting, then white, and our fabric. So we hoop all 5 layers together, and so we get a lovely fabric on the front and back of our quilt. We then use whatever thread color you choose to use, white, black, and I also think a gorgeous gold metallic thread would look stunning. You will see that it is a tiny little E-stitch which swings over the fabric to hold it flat, and it has a straight edge. Here we see the 4/4 designs, whether you are doing a 5-inch or 6-inch block to achieve a combined block. You then use your free scissors and cut the top fabric away, revealing the lovely white fabric underneath. You do exactly the same for your quarter blocks and cut away front and back. Again, you have your built-in cutting lines. If I was in a class, I'd get you all to say this, our built-in cutting lines, so we never make a mistake. If we're looking and using our rotary cutter correctly, it's all there, no measuring. And you will notice it's a little E-stitch, so that holds your fabric down flat. So we're cutting our 1/4 inches to size. 4/4 makes 1 hole. We then piece our 4/4 with the Jenny join, which you should know off by heart now, pin, zigzag, and then cover it with a decorative stitch of your choice. We actually, Robbie and I, did a beautiful pillow with the 1/4 inch blocks, and we chose to put a red ribbon. We used a red colored fabric, and we chose to use a red ribbon to cover our Jenny joint, and it looked spectacular. And then we chose to put a yellow fabric on the back, yellow silk, and big yellow buttons. It looked spectacular. Remember our webinar special And if you're not feeling like this, you could be slightly. I have really given you all the information I possibly can in one big session. Insanity does not run in my family, not sure about yours. It strolls through, takes its time, and gets to know everybody personally. I love that. I have it stuck up on my wall. Also, I want to remind you that I will be doing the Quilting Academy, repeating it again this year in July. We will be sending out an email blast about this. If you want to see what our fabulous graduates did from our 2012 Academy, please go onto the website and click on galleries and view the 2012 gallery. What they did is spectacular, and without exception, the emails I have got is it was the best I ever did. I learnt so much. I couldn't believe that I could achieve all these techniques. Many of my students are already teaching the classes with great success. And Gina Hodges, who is one of the Jenny Haskins US educators, actually won first prize with her quilt in a quilt show. It is a double-sided quilt. It is filled with techniques, and there is the floating piecing technique that I introduced into this academy. It is a fun, fabulous technique. So please, if you are not registered on our website, register on our website so you know what we are constantly doing. Don't forget to go to Jenny Haskins Designs 1, and you can follow me on my blog, which is jennyhaskins.blogspot. And also, I am on Pinterest. I love Pinterest. It's addictive. And I'm under Jenny.Gray Haskins. So I want to say goodbye to everybody. By the way, I also want to say a special cheerio to Paula Bramwell, who is the Jenny Haskins Product Manager for R&K in the US. She is out on the road teaching classes. She is happy to answer questions. So go onto the R&K website and find out where she is going to be next. It is a class that should not be missed. So from all of us in Aussie and from the Jenny Haskins team, thank you so much for attending our webinar. This is our third one. I think I can recite this in my sleep now, but we've had a record number of attendees. It has been very exciting. And don't forget to go to the Creative Machine Embroidery website for the Creative Machine Embroidery magazine, to my website for the special, and also remember the R&K site to find your local Floriani or Jenny Haskins dealer. We'd prefer Jenny Haskins, but we're happy to share with Floriani to purchase your beautiful Simon's Applique Magic. Bye, everyone.